Okay, good afternoon, councilors and staff. Welcome. Nice to see you here. I know with this warm weather, there's probably other places you'd like to be, but we will do our best. If we can call this meeting in order of one, and the proceedings of this meeting will be recorded and made available on the internet. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Clarkson, are you present?
I am.
Deputy Mayor Windover?
Present.
Councillor Armstrong?
Present.
Councillor Franzen?
Present.
Councillor Lambshead?
Present.
For staff, we have Donna Taggart, CAO Treasurer.
Present.
Dylan Kosh, Director of Recreation and Facilities. Dylan, do we have you there? Adele Arbor, Temporary Manager of Building and Planning.
Present.
Ann Ruth, Deputy Clerk.
Present.
Allison Martin, Planning Administrator.
Present.
Chastity Robertson, Deputy Treasurer.
Present.
Chelsea Carpenter, Waste Public Works Coordinator.
Present.
I'll try one more time for Dylan. And Jesse Clark, Director of Corporate Services, Clerk is present.
Thank you, Jesse. Now we're going to have a moment of reflection, but before we do that, Carol has an announcement she'd like to make.
Thank you, Mayor Clarkson. I just wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank Bill Grillis, who has just recently resigned from his position at the Cavendish Waste Transfer Site. Between him and Don Bowles, they really are the face to a lot of our community members because everybody goes to the transfer site station. So we'll miss him and thank him very much for his service and hard work.
Thank you, Councilor Armstrong. Now, if we could have this moment, that would. Okay, thank you. On behalf of council and staff, I'd like to welcome Kathy Thrun to the position of Finance Recreation Administrative Assistant. Kathy has 13 years of experience in various areas of municipal government and most recently has worked for the town of Oakville, the region of Peel. Kathy and her husband relocated to Trent Lakes and we are pleased to have her as a new member of our Trent Lakes team. And one of these days, we'll get to meet her face to face. Okay, remind council members of their obligation to declare any pecuniary interest you may have now or at any time during the meeting. If we could have a motion to approve the agenda, please. Deputy Mayor Windover, Councilor Franzen, all in favor? Motion has carried. Adoption of the minutes, special council meeting of the 4th and statutory public meeting of May the 4th. Motion, please. Councilor Lambshead, Councilor Armstrong. All in favor? Carried. Minutes and reports from committees and boards. Police Service Board minutes, April the 28th. Motion to receive these minutes. Deputy Mayor Windover, Councilor Franzen, all in favor? Motion is carried. And Ruth, Deputy Clerk, on behalf of the Police Services Board PSD, recommendation to establish community safety zones on Lakehurst Road and the Galway Road. Motion, please. Councilor Lambshead, Councilor Armstrong, all in favor? Yes.
Through you, Mayor Clarkson, I believe Ann was going to speak to this. However, if you don't need an introduction, I would just like clarification on what the motion is.
Dan, are you there?
I am. Thank you. Through you, Mayor Clarkson, to council. At the April 29th Police Services Board meeting, the board passed 2 resolutions recommending to council that community safety zones be established firstly on Lakehurst Road in the area of Sandy Beach, and secondly on Galway Road in the area of the Galway Hall and Fire Station. As Lakehurst Road is under the jurisdiction of Peterborough County, the designation of a community safety zone is a county matter in which the municipality of Trent Lakes has a vested interest. The Galway Road is under the jurisdiction of the municipality of Trent Lakes. Should council wish to support the board's recommendations regarding one or both of the roads, the report includes proposed motions for council's consideration.
Okay, so do we have thank you, Ann. Do we have a motion to support both of these or one? Okay.
My
Councillor Ramsay?
motion was to support them both. I mean, the Galloway Road one, obviously it's in our control, and I think it's very important to have that a safety zone because of both fire trucks and people entering and exiting the community hall and our roads department there. So I think it's very important that we move forward with that as soon as we can. The Lakehurst Road one, I think the motion would have to involve the county.
They already,
You want to second that, Ron?
yeah, they already are up. The Sandy Lake one, they're all installed.
Not community safety zone isn't installed there, is it?
What, the cameras?
No, community safety zone.
I thought you were talking about the camera, sorry. Remember I called you with the camera, I thought
Yeah.
they were the, okay, sorry. Okay. I
So
get two
do we
things
want
mixed up.
to support both of these as they are written?
I was going to second those with just a clarification that community safety zone basically means that fines are doubled
Yes.
if they are enforced in those areas.
And maybe at some point, we can actually get one of those flashing lights like they put up in different places to show people what their speeds are. Because you can go whipping around that corner pretty fast until you figure out that you. Anyway, you'll get we've got the motion and we've got a seconder. Can we have the vote, please? All in favor? Councillor Lambshead, Councillor Franzen, and that motion has carried. Okay, Anne, you're going to do again the Police Services Board resolution support of the OPP Detachment Board composition proposal.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Clarkson, to council. The Police Service Board passed a resolution at their April 29th meeting where they received documentation regarding the OPP detachment composition process, including a proposal summary provided by the CAO group representing the 7 Peterborough County municipalities with OPP contracted services, Curve Lake First Nation and Hiawatha First Nation. This report brings forward the board's recommendation for council's consideration and seeks council support of the same. Thank you.
Okay, before we vote on this, I was the dissenting vote on this, and I did it for principle more than, like, I figured one vote's not going to stop it. But I felt that it was really necessary to put some opposition to this. The questions that I had specifically to the commander was, is this going to save anybody any money? The answer to that is probably no. Is it going to give us any better services? The answer to that is we don't really know. So I think for me, until we had something definite, I was not willing to put a stamp on this. Now, having said that, it looks like we are backed up against the wall. We're not going to have a lot of say in this, but in conversations that I've had with Selwyn Township, the opposition that we have put forward is probably going to mean that we're going to get better representation. Because initially we were of the 7 townships, we might have had 3 of our own members, and everybody else would have come from somewhere else. So I think we want to make sure that we get the best deal that we can get. Is it what I would have liked to have seen? Absolutely not. But as happens to a lot of us these days, sometimes we just have to get the best of a bad deal. So with that, I look for a motion. Yes, Deputy Mayor Windover?
Yes,
A motion to approve the recommendation?
yeah.
Okay. Seconder and with comment.
I'll second that with a comment. Sure,
Okay.
absolutely.
Councillor Lansing?
It is nice to see that we're going to get representation from all of municipalities and our First Nations. So I think we do have a say in how this goes forward. Thank you.
Councillor Franzen?
I'm not going to be supporting this resolution. I think it's diluting the service that we're getting from police. I think a one-on-one meeting or the 3 members and having police representation, it is a better way of dealing it with our municipality. I think for the money that we send to the OPP, we deserve better than to have a seat with 15 other people dealing with the whole county. There's very little time to deal with the issues at the municipal level.
Well, that's exactly the way I feel, but I think my understanding, and Donna, you can speak to this because you've been at some of the higher discussions on these. I don't think we've got a choice in this matter.
So, right, through you. It is something that we have to put something to the province forward by June the 7th. It has been determined that this is going to happen, and we're really just speaking to the structure of what it's going to look like. So it is important that as a group, we all step forward, and it has to be all of us on the same page in order to go forward. If not, the province would determine it for us, is the message. So that is why we've tried to come up with something that at least has municipal representation, some community representatives, which, you know, those haven't been determined at this time, but would include mental health, potentially social services, that type of thing. But yeah, it is important that we, you know, I believe this is something that is a done deal, and this is our say to at least have representatives on there.
Okay, yes,
I was just saying that the alternative is we have no representation on it and they pick who's on it. So at least we have a chance
Yeah.
by supporting this type of a setup.
we grin and bear it. Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? And that motion is carried. Liaison report for council boards. As council, have we got any reports from the EDAC, PRCAC, Police Services Board, or Library Board? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me. Two to bring forward. One is from the Economic Development Advisory Committee, who has passed a resolution strongly encouraging us to do some kind of roadside maintenance in the town of Buckhorn this summer. The second one you didn't mention is actually the Kidnap Health Services Board had their AGM this past week. I think everybody knows they're really a fundraising arm of the services, and their primary focus is on recruitment because they are continually experiencing a turnover of doctors, or in this case, the physiotherapist. So they are hard at work trying to get both succession planning and recruitment efforts out into the community to make that happen. They're very active. They had a budget of about $34,000 last year and expect to have something similar this year.
Are you on that board, Carol?
I think so. I don't know that it was ever a council resolution, but I certainly let them know I was happy to be a resource for them.
Because I used to get information every time they were having meetings or something, and I don't anymore. I didn't realize this.
Well,
But anybody who is on that board, it would be worthwhile to recommend that they look again into the family practitioner. Because some of that has been opened up. They sealed that off tight as a drum for a while, and some of it's been opened up a little bit. And that will bring them a lot of service people. And now that some of the older ones are retiring that were against that sort of thing, there might be an opening there now.
yes, I've wondered, because we used to have a meeting with them
Yes.
every year, and also the Buckhorn one. We never, nothing at the Buckhorn one.
No, haven't heard. from
The
either one.
doctors, we used to all meet with the doctors all the time.
Just chugging along.
And that one, I think, is part of our contract with them. So we should be having annual meetings with them.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
So maybe we can follow up. Oh, sorry.
I think until COVID's over, we're not
Yes,
going to have.
yeah, through you. We are aware that we are required to meet annually, but we haven't been able to this year because of
Well, we
COVID.
never met last year either.
I don't understand why they can't have a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Telephone call.
Yep, we can check into it more.
I think it would be good.
Mhm.
And this meeting with the foundation was not with the health services group, so we should follow up with them as well to have some kind of an annual meeting accounting report.
Okay, so are we okay there? Are any motions required here? Are we okay? So do we need a motion to accept this report? No? Okay. Thank you for that. Nobody's speaking to the library today. Okay, now we're going into our statutory public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act. We need a motion to suspend the regular meeting. Deputy Mayor Windover, Councillor Frenzen, all in favor? Motion is carried. Allison, would you like to introduce the file number 20007 for Murphy?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, this is a public meeting under Section 34 of the Planning Act to consider an amendment to the municipality's zoning bylaw B 2014-070. Notices of public meeting for today's applications containing the prescribed information was circulated to all landowners within a 120-meter radius of the subject lands at least 20 days prior to this meeting. The notice was also mailed to all prescribed agencies, public bodies, and persons in accordance with the regulations. Anyone wanting to be notified of any decision from today's public meetings must send in a written request to myself or the clerk, and the notice of passing will be mailed to them, setting out the method and manner in which appeals may be made to the local planning appeal tribunal. Please note that if a person does not send a written comment prior to the passing of the bylaw or make an oral submission at a public meeting, that person may not be entitled to appeal the decision. This is a public meeting for file number 20-27 to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Greg Lawson on behalf of property owner Gary Murphy for the property located at 80 Fire Route 277. Please note that a previous public meeting was held for this application on April 6, 2021, and council directed staff to hold another due to the fact that owner Gary Murphy was not able to speak for the application at the last public meeting. The property at 80 Fire Route 277 has a shoreline frontage of 74.6 meters and a lot area of 0.73 hectares. The property is currently zoned shoreline residential private access, and the lot is currently occupied by a dwelling with a floor area of approximately 67 square meters, as well as 3 detached storage buildings. The applicant wishes to construct a replacement dwelling that occupies the same location as the previously existing dwelling, but with a ground floor area of 178.4 square meters and a boathouse slash storage building with a floor area of 95 square meters. The following has already been supported by council on April 6, 2021 for the replacement dwelling. First, the construction of a one-story replacement dwelling with a walkout basement covering the majority of the existing footprint with a proposed ground floor area of 129.3 square meters. Second, the reduction to the minimum water yard setback to the proposed uncovered northerly deck from 30 meters to 6.8 meters, which is a slight improvement to the 6.1 meter setback to the exterior wall of the existing dwelling. Third, the recognition of the existing non-compliant gazebo currently located in the water yard. And fourth, the recognition of the location of a proposed septic system which is within the 30-meter water yard setback, which has been approved by Peterborough Public Health and is proposed to be located 18 meters from the high water mark. In order to construct the proposed boathouse slash storage building, the applicant requires the following relief from the zoning bylaw. First, to increase the size of the proposed boathouse from 74 square meters to 94 square meters. And second, a reduction to the minimum northerly side lot line distance for a boathouse from 15 meters to 2.7 meters. There is a planning report on the agenda from the municipality's planning consultant, Chris Jones, that was prepared for the initial public meeting on April 6th. His report states that the application is generally consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. In the report, Chris states that he is able to promote the expansion as it does not decrease the existing shoreline setback. However, he is not able to support the construction of a new storage building as the applicant's site plan refers to it as a boathouse. The municipality has received a comment from Curve Lake requesting an archaeological assessment. At this time, staff are not requiring that one is completed. Staff have also received a comment from Peterborough Public Health, who have no objections to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Staff has also received 2 comments from neighbors Murray Kidd and Janice Platt and Steve and Lisa Henry, who are in support of the location of the boathouse. Both the agent Greg Lawson and the owner Gary Murphy are on the line should council or the public have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Allison. Okay, council, any questions or comments? Councillor Lambshead?
I just have a comment about the location of the boathouse slash storage. I think the person that's applying has the right to build a 794 square foot boathouse at the water's edge, 50 feet from the lot line. it's a deep water trout lake. I prefer to have a boathouse located a little bit off the water where it's already been disturbed. There's already a preparation on the site. So for me to support this would be much better than supporting something that was on the water frontage where you're going to destroy vegetation, have things running into the water. So I think the location that has been picked is relevant. I mean, that's where the boat gets stored now, and I think the boat will get stored in the boathouse at 18 meters from the water yard.
Any other comments?
All right.
Gary or Greg, would either one of you like to speak to this?
I would like to. Gary,
Yep,
can you
Go
hear
ahead.
me?
yes,
Well, you might remember that a month ago when I was speaking to you, I submitted my little diagram showing you where the 60 meter line is. Remember that?
yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to remind you again that all the structures along there are inside the 60 meters. I don't know what makes mine any different. And I'm surprised after I submit that diagram showing everybody from the planning department, you know, what's at 60 meters, what makes me any different. I don't know how they're supporting their position. You understand my point, right? Like what makes me any different? Chris Jones didn't support my application, but really didn't say why. He just said, I'm not doing it. And now I've provided more information. Even the only thing that's changed since the last time we spoke is I have one more neighbor. That's now both neighbors on each side supporting me. I don't see how anybody would be against it, really.
If I may, each planning application is considered on its own merits. And if we refer back to the memo that is on the agenda produced by the external planning consultant, Chris Jones, it does state that he is not able to support the boathouses, as the boathouse usually has a functional and physical association with the water's edge, while the proposed building is 50 feet away from the shore. In addition, there is substantial vegetation and grade separating and constraining the proposed structure from the water's edge.
Yeah, that's right. In the last meeting, I said that when I looked at the guidelines, it said maybe at the water's edge. It didn't say must be.
Okay, do we have any further questions?
I hope my audio is coming in clearly.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Yeah.
We're just, Councillor Franzen has a comment.
Yes, there's a big difference between having a boathouse on a deep water lake or than having it on one of our shallower lakes. Because with the drop in the water, you really can't use a boathouse as a traditional boathouse that you would use on Pigeon Lake or Balsam Lake or any of these shallower lakes. So I would support the application.
Okay, I think we've got any more comments?
Council, I hope you hear me. I don't hear you well. The signal is very poor,
No,
so I hope you heard me.
I think everybody around here has heard well.
Okay.
Anybody with their hand up that didn't hear?
No.
Okay, we shall be dealing with this later. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now we're going to look at,
Thank
well, thank you for coming. Okay, now we're going to be looking at the Kimball
Okay.
file 20-32. Allison, would you like to introduce this one, please?
Yes, thank you. This is a public meeting for file number 20-32 to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by property owners Scott, Wayne, and Heather Kimball for a vacant property with frontage on White Valley Road, located in part of Lot 29, Concession 18, Harvey. The property on White Valley Road has a lot area of 80.62 hectares and is currently vacant. This zoning bylaw amendment is a condition of consent in order to sever the property to create two new lots. The new lots each have a lot area of 0.4 hectares and a 63.4 meter frontage onto White Valley Road. In order for the lots to be severed, the conditions of the consent application must be met. one condition being that the severed lots are to be rezoned from the rural zone to the rural residential zone. The applicant submitted an aggregate resource impact review prepared by Oak Ridge Environmental Limited that is in support of the application. It is to be noted that there are 2 notices of complete application and public meeting on today's agenda. The first notice was circulated with the wrong key map, and as a result, the notice was recirculated to all property owners within the 120-meter radius. Further, there is a planning report on the agenda from the municipality's planning consultant, Chris Jones, who is generally in support of the application. The municipality has also received a comment from Peterborough Public Health, who have no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The municipality has also received a letter of support from neighbor Istvan Langlos and Trevor Chiatau. Heather Kimball, one of the owners, is on the line and is available to answer any questions should council or the public have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have questions? I'm looking for hands up. Nope, looks good. All right, thank you very much. So we deal with this later, right? No? Okay, now we've got zoning bylaw amendment 21-05. And Allison, this is, I'm not going to do that. Okay. I'm not gonna
Thank
do
you.
that.
This is a public meeting for file number 21-05 to consider a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by agent Jessica Reed from EcoView on behalf of property owner Sasha Micagelli for the property located at 6 Fire Route 204. The property at 6 Fire Route 204 has a shoreline frontage of 44 meters and a lot area of 0.31 hectares. The property is currently zoned shoreline residential and is occupied by a dwelling and accessory garage. The applicant constructed a sauna in the water yard setback and is seeking to legalize the structure through the zoning bylaw amendment process. The sauna has a ground floor area of 12.12 meters squared and a height of approximately 3.5 meters. The sauna is located in the water yard and is 8.74 meters from the shoreline at the nearest point. Currently, the Trent Lake zoning bylaw does not permit saunas in any of the zone classifications, but they are not uncommon structures in shoreline communities. In order to recognize the previously constructed sauna, the applicant will require the following relief from the zoning bylaw: a reduction to the 30-meter setback to 8.74 meters to recognize the existing sauna in the water yard. There's a planning report on the agenda from the municipality's planning consultant, Chris Jones. His report states that the application is generally consistent with the provincial policy statement and the growth plan. The municipality has received a comment from Peterborough Public Health, who have no objection to the proposed sauna. And Jessica Reed, the agent for the application, is on the line and is available to answer any questions should council or the public have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from council? Yes, Councilor Lansing.
I'm just curious as to why there wasn't a permit applied for prior to the construction.
So through you, Madam Mayor, we were only retained upon it being brought to the attention of the property owner that it wasn't permitted. And so upon the correspondence from the municipality stating that it needs to be brought into conformity, he retained us and we've been working with him since. So I'm not totally sure of his intentions previous, but we've been working with him since then to rectify.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much. Now I need a motion to reconvene. Councilor Lambshead, Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor? Motion has carried.
Thank you.
Now we've got business arising from the statutory public meeting. Allison for Murphy.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, an initial public meeting was held for file number 20-27 on April 6th. At that meeting, council directed staff to draft a zoning bylaw amendment that was supportive of the proposed replacement dwelling, but that precluded the boathouse. On April 20th, a delegation was made by Gary Murphy, and as a result of that presentation, council directed staff to draft a zoning bylaw amendment that was supportive of both the replacement dwelling and the boathouse. As a result, a second public meeting was held today in order to inform the public of the changes. The initial report written by the external planning consultant was included on the agenda and is supportive of the replacement dwelling but not the boathouse due to the proposed location. However, if council chooses to support the amendment, which includes the boathouse, I ask that they rescind their previous motion, R 2021-253. Thank you.
So I think the first is we rescind the motion.
I think we can do that in one though, can't we? Can we rescind the motion and support the location of the boathouse in a single motion.
Can we do that, Jesse?
Yep.
Okay, would you like to do
I
that?
would like to make that a motion, yes.
You're okay with that? And do we have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, 2032 for Kimball.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. There was a public meeting held today for file number 20-32. At this time, staff are recommending that council receive the report written by the municipal planning consultant, Chris Jones, that they defer approval of the zoning bylaw amendment pending the submission of a registered reference plan.
Okay, do we have a motion? Councillor Franzen,
Motion to approve.
okay. Seconder, Councillor Lanshead, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, 2105.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. There was a public meeting held today for file number 21-05. At this time, staff are recommending that council direct that approval of the zoning bylaw amendment be deferred pending the completion and execution of a site plan agreement by the applicant, and that council direct staff to address saunas through the pending county official plan update and prepare draft regulations to be incorporated into the Trent Lake zoning bylaw update for council's review. Thank you.
Did you have a
It's
question?
just one
before?
comment about, I don't think we actually announced the outcome of that vote. So if you're just on the phone, we wouldn't have known what our outcome of the last vote was.
Okay, and it was all in favor,
Yes.
passed.
Thank you.
And this one here, then we just want, we want a motion to support the recommendation to wait for the draft agreement or, okay?
I can make that a motion, yes.
Councillor Franzen, are you going to second her? Councillor Lanshead was the primary vote.
May I make
All
a
in
comment?
favor?
I just would like a comment about section 3 of that recommendation.
Yeah.
Is that we have direct staff to address saunas through the pending council official plan update and prepare draft regulations to be incorporated into the Trent Lake zoning bylaw for council's review.
Perfect. So is that a separate one or is
No,
that
that's
just?
part of that.
That's
Just
part of
wanted
the
to
motion.
make a note of that.
We don't need to do this again, Jesse, you're just going to include that in the motion.
Still need to call for the vote.
All in favor? Carried. You okay?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment,
Go
if
ahead.
I may. I just wanted to, on building on Councillor Lanshead's point, because I think this is important, I'm hoping that we can get draft regulations prior to the completion of the official plan, because that seems still so far away. I'd like to see us address it in the short term.
Okay. Now, do you want to make a motion to that effect?
No, I think the comment stands. Okay.
Okay, presentations. We now have a presentation from Gord Russell, Land Use Planner, G.H. Russell Planning and Development Services regarding application for zoning bylaw amendment, Rudy Mountain Farms. Please unmute your audio and share your video, your camera. Make your presentation. You will have 20 minutes. And then we'll ask council to hold their questions till the end of your presentation. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, and members of council. My name is Gord Russell. I'm a land use planner. I'm working for Dudney Mountain Farms Limited, and I've been asked to address the application that was submitted on July 17th, 2020, and in response to council's resolution R 2021-180. The resolution from council was to provide by the applicant additional information with regards to 4 aspects of the subject lands with regards to the updated reports. We've provided letters as requested by council, and I believe you have all 4 letters. They dealt with the hydrogeological report, the environmental impact study, the blasting impact study, and the archaeological study. Those letters have been provided. They indicate that in all aspects that they are consistent with the provincial policy statement, and that those reports and the the application is up to date to 2020 in regards to the provincial policy statement. So I believe that should satisfy that criteria of the resolution. The second component of that resolution was to provide the updated ARA site plans. Those site plans were revised at the hearing in 2014, and at the request of the Ontario Municipal Board, we provided the revisions into the site plans and provided them back to the Ontario Municipal Board for confirmation, and a copy of that. Those plans also went to the municipality at that time. And then with regards to the haul route agreement, the haul route agreement has been provided to you. It's in draft form. It's a tri-party agreement between the County of Peterborough, the Municipality of Trent Lakes, and the applicant. And we prepared it in consultation with your solicitor in 2014, but we have since updated it, and we're asking the municipality to undertake a review of that and report back to council on its review, and in consultation with our solicitor, Mr. White. So I believe that addresses the resolution, and what I'd like to do is divide everything in parts. So I'd like to deal with the resolution first to get perhaps some feedback from council on whether that actually satisfies the resolution from council, and then I can move on to the other aspects of the proposal.
Okay, so can we have some council comments? If anyone has something they'd like to inquire? Okay, seeing none, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Gord, for that presentation. In terms of the last resolution that council passed, I think certainly you have met the requirement to get letters for those 4 studies, as well as provide us with an updated ARA site plan. My only question is, we saw at one time a proposal for an alternative haul route, which would bypass Ledge Road completely. And that was of some interest to at least one of us, perhaps others. Yeah. And that was taken off the table. I'm not sure I fully understand why, and I'm wondering if that could be put back into the submission of your application for consideration.
Thank you, Councillor. That deals with one of the components that we're going to be presenting today, but I can jump right in and talk about that. In 2014, the appellants and the applicant had discussions about how to lessen the effect of the truck traffic in front of the homes along both Ledge Road and Quarry Road. One of the possibilities was to provide an alternate route, which was to utilize a portion of the unopened road allowance, which would have been Ledge Road, the top end of Quarry Road, but based on the topography, the municipality chose to go around the valley lands, and it's what's called the deviated portion of Ledge Road. And then, of course, subsequently, that bottom end of Ledge Road was developed into rural residential lots. And it's that portion that 6 of the residents presently live on and will be directly affected by the vehicles passing by. So the suggestion was to develop the unopened road allowance with the consent of the municipality. And at that time, there was no instructions from council to instruct their solicitor to incorporate a paragraph into the draft agreement that was being prepared but had yet been provided to the Ontario Municipal Board. So what happened was that the appellants chose to reject that option at the hearing, and we put it aside because if it wasn't going to achieve what we wished to achieve by removing the truck traffic directly in front of the residents' homes, then and the municipality had not provided any instructions, we had to set it aside at that time. We thought that it would be beneficial to resurrect that option, and we provided that in a letter to council in March, but we didn't receive any feedback other than from planning staff recommending that there be a very detailed review of the proposal. The issue with that, of course, is that it would take more effort to undertake that at this time, and it was really a conceptual option for consideration if council would endorse it. The applicant is still open to that idea, but the focus on this presentation is to declare the application complete for the zoning bylaw amendment and to deal with the haul route as it exists. But if council would endorse that option of looking at the unopened road allowance and perhaps utilizing it and improving it to a municipal standard for vehicle traffic, certainly Dudney Mountain Farms Limited would be very interested in moving that forward, but it would have to be endorsed by council for that option. And at the moment, it's not in the draft agreement, but we did prepare a paragraph to insert it into the agreement in anticipation that council would support it, because quite frankly, I think it's a win for everybody, for the municipality, for the residents especially, and for the Dudney Mountain Farms who will be operating the quarry and monitoring the truck traffic. So to answer your question, if council endorses that, we would certainly entertain putting it back into the agreement as an option for further consideration.
Okay, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Ben. Just a follow-up question. I can't speak for council. I'm not sure we're prepared to endorse that option today, but I certainly would like to see it as a conceptual proposal included in the application. So I'm a little confused now as to whose move it is, whether that's the municipality or the applicant. But I think it certainly has merit as an optional route and would like it to be on the record as an option as part of your application, whatever needs to be done to do that. I don't want to be speaking for myself here.
I think I'd like to see the process, because my understanding was that the first thing we have to do is approve the zoning bylaw. And then once that's done, then we can negotiate the haulage route.
Approve or deem the application complete.
Yes.
Not the zoning bylaw.
Yes.
Sorry, just to clarify.
Yes.
I would personally like somebody to take us out and so we could visualize what that alternative route would be, because I certainly would not deem this application complete with the haul route that's being proposed.
Anybody else want to jump into this?
I thought it was something we presented that to him 2 years ago. They did that and they turned it down. I mean, I sure would like to see them do it again, because I mean, it definitely would be a benefit
Anyone
to
else?
Ledge Road, that's for sure.
I think some of those conversations were held in closed session, so I don't know what is available for public knowledge on that, but I certainly personally would like to explore the option of that other haul route, because the health and safety of all the residents on Ledge Road is in jeopardy. And I feel that's my own opinion, I know, and I think another haul route or any other haul route opportunities should be explored, so.
Definitely.
But does the haul route not follow the application being deemed
Yes,
complete?
absolutely.
So that's the first thing we do. And then we go ahead and deal with so today we've got, I guess what I'm saying is if we deem this thing complete today, at least we've accomplished something and we're moving forward. And then we have to determine what the best way to do as far as the haul is concerned. Yes.
And thank you, Ben. And I agree with that. I think personally, I would be prepared to deem the application complete, which is not approval, It just opens the door for going to the next step of the process, which is peer review and public consultation, but only if the alternate haul route is part of the conceptual proposal for a haul route agreement. And if we could get that in there, again, confused, don't know whose move it is, but I think the applicant could make that move to put it back in since they did submit it previously, then I think we may be in a position to move this forward.
Mr. Russell wants to speak.
Pardon?
Mr. Russell would like to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yell at me, Mr. Russell. You're very small in my screen here.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. On Councillor Armstrong's suggestion, may I make a suggestion? If council deems it appropriate to declare this application complete, that a second component of that resolution is that the applicant incorporate the option into the draft agreement and then represent it back to staff for review by your solicitor.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
In anticipation of this being an agenda item, I have spoken with the municipality's planning staff and the planning consultant and reviewed Chris Jones's previous report and what items were outstanding from the last recommendation to deem the application complete. And we have drafted a motion that does speak to the alternate haul route option, and I believe Ann can pull it up if you'd like to review that.
Sure.
Mayor Clarkson, Councillor Franzen would like to speak.
Yes,
I'd like to reiterate that I couldn't support this unless I viewed what the alternate route is.
well,
I'd like to walk it with somebody that can tell me exactly where that route's going to be.
but this is going to come back to council, so we've got time to do this from between now and the time it comes back. We're not making that decision. today.
And there has to be public consultation yet too.
Yeah, so we're not making that decision today.
I-
So the resolution, do you want to read this, Jesse? Or do you want me to, or
It's on the screen there. If you'd like me to read it out, I can.
can everybody get it? So the draft haul route agreement together with the alternate haul route option be received for information in conjunction with the application for zoning bylaw amendment and be referred to the municipality solicitor and peer review consultants to review and provide advice to the municipality. Do we have a motion to approve this? Councilor Armstrong?
I would make a motion to approve it, reinforcing once again, this is not approving the bylaw amendment. This is just approving or deeming the application complete to proceed to the next step.
That's what we need. Seconder? Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor? Motion has carried.
I'd like it noted that I'm not in favor, or that there was one opposed.
So then you'd like to have a recorded vote?
No, I just, that one opposed,
Can you do, I think you have to have a
4 in
recorded.
favor and 1 opposed.
That would be through a recorded vote.
Okay, I'll request a
Yep.
recorded vote then.
So I will start with the member who requested the recorded vote, which is Councillor Franzen. Are you in
No.
favor? Councillor Lamford,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Windover,
Yes.
Councillor Armstrong,
Yes.
Mayor Clarkson.
Yes. Okay, so thank you for your presentation. You can now be removed from the meeting and you can log back in if you want to listen. to
I have just one follow-up question, and it's not to do with the haul route. I was just wondering if Mr. Russell could, the location of the blasting, is it anywhere near where the caves are?
Absolutely not. It's a different property.
Pardon? I know it's a different property, but is it, I know it's an adjoining property. Is the blasting area going to be anywhere close to where the caves are?
It is not, and Ministry of Natural Resources and the Conservation Authority have done a site inspection and have cleared the distance that's required under the Ministry of Natural Resources. So those caves will be safe from any disturbances on the quarry site.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Okay, have we any delegations going forward? Staff reports, Public Works, Chelsea Carpenter Waste Management, Public Works Coordinator, amend Sunday hours at the transfer station sites. Would you like to speak to this, Chelsea, before we call for the vote?
Sure, yes, thank you, Mayor Clarkson, and through you. This report is in regards to amending Sunday hours at the transfer station sites. At the March 16th regular council meeting, council referred the matter back to staff to consider the level of service as well as the safety of staff. Given the time sensitivity of this matter, as this recommendation has originated from a health and safety concern brought forward, staff have prepared some preliminary data as well as further information for consideration. Staff have compiled data from March 21st until May 9th of this year, which gives a total of 8 Sunday shifts, tracking the number of cars that came through each transfer station site on Sundays between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock during winter hours. The number of cars was also tracked during summer hours between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock and 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. The data collected shows that the sites are utilized by fewer residents in the latter part of the Sunday shifts when you compare to the total number of vehicles that visited the site. Staff at all 4 sites have indicated that this is an accurate depiction of the activity they see throughout the year on Sundays. With the current COVID-19 situation and even with the current stay-at-home order, our sites have seen a significant increase in vehicle traffic. Between January and April of this year, sites have seen an approximate 28% increase in vehicles compared to last year. Vehicle counts from January to April of this year are at 23,457 compared to last year at 18,319. 4 options have been outlined for council's consideration. Staff are recommending option 1, amend Sunday hours as suggested, both in the winter and summer at the transfer stations effective April 1st, 2022. This option will avoid the sites being operational close to dusk, where daylight is reduced and where staff are closing up the sites with limited visibility, and furthermore, the recommendation will ensure compliance with the current ECA. This concludes my report summary.
Thank you. Do we have council with concerns or comments? Councilor Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not surprisingly, this has garnered some feedback from our various residents, and it's really due to the summer hours. So let me start by saying, first, I appreciate the fact that data has been collected to support the recommendation because I like database decisions. However, the period of time in which the data was collected is really not helpful, as it was during a lockdown period, and it doesn't reflect what happens in the summer when we have our cottagers coming up and going back on the weekends. So I don't think there's any issue around the winter hours, particularly it's around the summer hours proposal. Not sure why we're rushing this. We're talking about an April 2022 implementation, so I think we have time to get useful data and input from our residents. I am suggesting that instead we get good data over the summer period and use that as the basis for determining what to do in the summer hours, while still understanding that we don't want our operators working after dark because that's not safe. So again, as I said last time, I think it's a balance between providing a level of service to our residents, in particular those who come up for just the weekend during the summer and try and stretch their weekend as long as they can and then go by the transfer station on their way home. So not prepared to make a decision today. I don't think we need to. There's plenty of time. I think we need more data.
I have a comment. I spoke with the one of the attendants at Buckhorn, and he said the problem is with all these short-term rentals is most of them have got to be out by 11 o'clock in the morning. So he said they get an awful lineup first thing in the morning with these people coming through unloading their garbage. One person had 100 bags. So there's another indication there of what the short-term rentals, the effect that they're having on the waste situation. So I would be inclined to agree with Councillor Armstrong. I think we need some more specific information. I think the dark is one of the issues that needs to be addressed. That's kind of that's just one of those things that makes sense. But I think that huge amount of waste that's coming in from the people that have to be at 11 o'clock, I think we've got to seriously look at how much these people are paying for this service. If you had a regular resort or a regular bed and breakfast, you would have to have a commercial person pick up your garbage. As it is, this is going into the land site that is paid for by everybody, and it's not right. Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I agree that the winter hours, I think we could probably support and change. And I think the summer hours, we need to be more data driven. I think with keeping track of this for the summer through till September will give us the numbers we need, and then we can make a well-informed decision.
Very good, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that, yeah.
So right now, we want a motion to put this on hold, or we just,
I'll make a motion to put them on hold.
okay. So the motion is to delay the decision till
get the
more
details.
information is collected.
Yeah.
And bring it back.
Summer,
say,
bring it back.
Yep, bring it back in September. Motion by Councillor, or by Deputy Mayor Windover, and seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you, Chelsea. You've done a lot of work on this.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mayor Clarkson.
Household medical waste exemption.
Thank you. And yep, I can speak to that. Thank you and through you. This report is regarding household medical waste exemptions. Recently, staff received a request for a medical waste exemption for a resident who will be receiving a life-sustaining treatment at home, resulting in additional waste. The request was to dispose of all medical waste associated with this treatment at no cost. In order to accommodate those who are undergoing in-home medical treatment, staff feel it is appropriate to implement a household medical waste exemption. Residents who qualify for this exemption would receive an additional waste card. A bylaw has been drafted for council's approval and is included on today's agenda to repeal and replace B 2020-031 to permit household medical waste exemptions and minor housekeeping amendments. This concludes my report summary.
Chelsea, a question. Where will these specific items be housed? They're not going to go into the regular garbage, I would hope.
Through you, Mayor Clarkson, they would. This would be different than the biomedical waste. So that waste we are not permitted to accept at our transfer stations. So this would be material such as bandages and lines for dialysis, for example. It wouldn't be anything that would be considered biomedical waste, and it would be something that can be considered as household hazardous waste and form part of their regular waste.
I'm still not sure about this. I'm certainly sure that the fact that we should make these exemptions, but I also think that there should be a contained item somewhere, place that these items can be stored outside of the regular garbage. Is that possible that there could be a?
I don't think we're going to be taking any biohazards whatsoever. I think it will be just the additional waste for medical procedures being done at home.
Through you, Mayor Clarkson, to Councillor Lamb said that is correct.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm still a little confused, Chelsea. I think you referred to it as household hazard waste, which typically would not go into our waste bins. So I'm not clear whether it's treated as regular waste or if there's some other special treatment that's required for this.
Through you, Mayor Clarkson, I apologize if I misspoke. So it would be considered household waste.
Not hazardous.
Not hazardous.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
okay, got it. Thank you.
I'm sorry if I misspoke there.
That's all right. We got it cleared up.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
I'll make a
Councillor Branson,
motion in support.
to support, and the seconder would be Councillor Lamb. All in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, Chelsea, you're going to speak to the roads needs study.
Thank you, Mayor Clarkson, and through you. This report is in regards to a road need study. The last road need study was completed in 2012 by the Greer-Galloway Group, which has prompted more current road need study to be completed. It is anticipated that the completion of a road need study will help mitigate future possible risks and serve as a guide for the municipality to follow when assessing the current state of public roadways. This concludes my report summary.
Okay, questions concerning this report? Just to be clear, where does the money come from to do this study?
Through you,
Oh.
Mayor Clarkson, it would be funded through the available service delivery reserve monies. Oh, sorry, Donna, if I talked over
Nope.
you.
Through you, that's good. No, thank you.
That's what I'm talking.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wondering, Chelsea, is this a requirement through provincial government somehow or other that we have to do a road need study? Or is this just sort of protocol that we get outside expertise to help us with this?
Through you, I think it's best practice. And as I mentioned, it's to mitigate any potential risks. It also helps form part of the asset management plan when planning roads projects and determining any major construction projects in the future.
Did you want to speak to this further, Donna, or that's okay?
Through you, no, I believe Chelsea's done a really good job, and it is something that we should definitely do. It is a really good risk mitigation factor, and we do have reserve monies that we could use for this.
What about the gadgets in the trucks that keep track of where everybody goes and what they do? Is that functioning?
So through you, they are functioning. We are going to be bringing back some recommendations in the future. It's one of those things that's on our to-do list. There are some options there. Some of our newer vehicles already have those built into them. So we do have some decisions to be made for all municipal vehicles, including the building trucks, for instance, or truck. So we will be coming back to that, but they are currently being monitored.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so do we need a motion for this, right? To conduct this study? Councilor Armstrong?
Yep. Motion to receive and approve and direct staff to go ahead with the issuance of an RFP.
Okay, and seconder would be Deputy Mayor Windover. All in favor? Thank you. Recreation facilities, I don't see that we have one. Fire and emergency, nobody there. Adele, you're going to speak to a demolition agreement for 152 Fire Route 284.
Thank you. Through Mayor Clarkson, property owners Adam Shapiro and Alana Lieberman would like to make an application to build a new dwelling on their property, municipally known as 152 Fire Route 284. The property is currently zoned shoreline residential private access, and it has two structures, a dwelling and a guest cabin located within a shore road allowance. In accordance to the comprehensive zoning bylaw, the SRPA zone does not permit two dwellings on the same property. The property owners would like to construct the new dwelling and guest cabin and a new guest cabin 30 meters away from the high water mark. And according to the zoning bylaw, prior to the issuance of a building permit for a new dwelling, any existing dwellings must be removed. The owners would like to retain the existing dwelling and guest cabin for use during construction, and they fully intend to demolish the most southerly dwelling and northerly guest cabin prior to granting of any occupancy of the new dwelling. The property owner advises it would be more cost efficient to demolish both structures at the same time due to the challenges of the property relating to access of machinery to the structures in the shore road allowance. The property owners have agreed to enter into an agreement with the municipality which would obligate them to demolish or remove the two existing structures in the shore road allowance by July 30th, 2022, or upon occupancy, whichever occurs first. This agreement provides a level of assurance that the work necessary to comply with the regulations of the zoning bylaw will take place as prescribed by the conditional permit provision of the Ontario Building Code. Therefore, it's being recommended that Council receive this report for information, and further that Council authorize the execution of an agreement to demolish between the Municipality of Trent Lakes and the property owners, which is listed under the bylaw section of today's agenda for Council's consideration.
Okay, any questions for Adele? Anyone? Councillor Franzen?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
that
thank you.
the property owners agree to enter into an agreement with the municipality, which would obligate them to demolish or remove the two existing structures in the shore road allowance. The municipality would have the authority to demolish the buildings at the owner's expense should they fail to comply with this condition and agreement.
Okay, well said. Seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Windover, all in favor? Carried. Oh, our CAO treasurer, Mrs.
Yes.
Hacker.
Through you, just accounts payable for the month of April.
Can we have a motion to approve?
Receive it.
Deputy Mayor Windover, Councillor Lambshead, all in favor? That is carried. Chastity Robertson, mobile devices policy.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, this report is for the amendment of our mobile devices policy. The amendment includes new sections for definitions, safety, MFIPA, and broken, damaged, or inoperable mobile devices. I am recommending that Council approve the amended mobile devices policy attached.
Okay. Any questions, or is there anybody ready to make a motion? Councillor
I'll
Lambshead?
make a motion to approve the amended mobile devices policy and to receive the report from the deputy treasurer.
Thank you. Seconder, please. Councillor Armstrong, all in favor? Thank you. Motion is carried. Corporate Services, Ann Ruth, Deputy Clerk, Council Expenses. Questions and motion, please.
Motion
Councillor
to
Francis?
approve.
Receive them.
Deputy Mayor
Receive and
Windover,
approve.
all in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, Jesse, Director of Corporate Services, AMO delegation requests.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Clarkson. This year's AMO conference is being held in August digitally, and Councillor Franzen is planning to attend the conference this year on behalf of the municipality. And staff are just looking for direction on which, if any, delegations to request, as the deadline is June 4th.
So my suggestion would be, think about it this week and bring any suggestions you have back to the next meeting.
Do we have time for that?
Pardon?
Do we have time for that?
Through you, yes, we do. The next meeting would be June 1st.
Okay, everybody agree to that? Where is the main one being held?
It's being held digitally.
Okay, but it has to have a house somewhere. Nope, okay. All right. So we don't need a motion at this point then, or do we?
If I could, just to receive the report and to defer to June 1st.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll make that motion.
okay, Councillor Lambshead, Councillor Franzen. And that motion is to defer to August the 2nd, or June the 2nd.
June the 1st.
June the 1st, sorry.
And
So
and
maybe
make
we
sure
should
that,
spell out what we
yeah,
want.
and make
right?
sure that any counselors let us know, like, be ready to let staff know, because it's very short term of writing up a delegation.
Okay, correspondence for information. We've got a bunch of these. Does anybody want to pick one of these out, or shall we just accept them as a group? So by all means, go through them. If you want to pull something out, say so.
Receive.
Okay. Motion to receive.
Yeah.
And a seconder, Councillor Armstrong, all in favor. Motion has carried. Somebody didn't even do the forest management plan. Correspondence for action, City of Brantford, request to withdraw the prohibition of golf. Motion, please. Councillor Armstrong,
Motion to receive.
do we have a second?
I'll second that because it would be very self-serving if I motion.
Can we put a caveat on this? Okay, seconded reluctantly. by Councillor Lambshead. All in favor? Carried. Advocacy for Reform Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Motion. Councillor Franzen.
Motion to receive.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Armstrong. All in favor? Carried. Town of Fort Erie Source Water Protection Legislation. Motion.
Make a motion to receive because our source water is protected by our own legislations.
Councillor Lambshead, seconded by Deputy Mayor Windover. All in favor? Carried. Township of Scugog bus stops on dead-end roads. Motion.
Motion to receive.
Okay, Councillor Franzen, seconded by Councillor Armstrong. All in favor? Carried. Township of Selwyn Lake Management Plan for Pigeon Lake. Councillor Armstrong,
Motion to support.
Councillor Lambshead,
I will second
seconder.
that, absolutely.
Any comment? All in favor? Carried. Bylaws. Jesse, you're going to speak to this?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Clarkson. There's one bylaw on today's agenda that didn't have an associated public meeting or staff report, and that is B 2021-54, which is to authorize the execution of a development site plan agreement for consent files B 14 and 1520, which was a condition for their severance.
Okay, and we don't need a motion for that. And we've got 2021-054 development site plan agreement with Carly. This we do need a motion for. Councillor Lambshead,
Motion to approve.
Councillor Armstrong, all in favor? Motion is carried. Now, for Mr. Murphy, 2021-056. Motion,
I
Councillor.
can make a motion to approve with the location of the boathouse / storage room.
Okay. And the seconder would be Deputy Mayor Windover. All in favor? That is carried. Waste disposal bylaw. This is the one that we're,
I think we defer that.
this is being deferred. So we don't need a motion at this point, or do we?
Through you, yes, a motion to
defer?
defer and to direct staff to prepare with the medical waste exemption only.
Okay. So Councillor Lambshead, you made that motion,
Sure.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Windover. All in favor? Demolition agreement for Shapiro. Motion. Councillor Franzen,
Motion to support.
seconded by Councillor Lambshead. All in favor? Thank you. Business arising out of a previous meeting, roadside maintenance along the Lakehurst Road. You need a motion and discussion if anybody wants to. I'll put a motion on the floor.
Through you,
first.
Mayor Clarkson.
You're back.
I'm here, Mayor. So the township, myself and Mr. Coombs, the Director of Public Works, met with the county out shortly after the May 4th meeting regarding some of this maintenance, and we received some input back from the county on the 12th of May. So it missed the agenda for a report, but we have an email that maybe Ann can bring it up on screen there. So from the sounds of it, the county has, surveyed the area that the mayor had previously outlined for maintenance, and they have come to the conclusion that along some of those areas that they are planning to do some brushing, as well as dealing with some of the wild parsnip concerns. The wild parsnip, they did indicate that it could take up to a year or a couple of years to fully eradicate it, but they were definitely going to be on that as soon as possible. So that may assist down the road in some of the more concerned areas for those plants. So the county is taking on a fair bit of brushing, as indicated by their map there in yellow. So it just, if council wants anything additional I'm not sure what Mr. Coombs' schedule allows for. Currently, the recreation department is pretty much tapped out, but you know, a small occasional maintenance we may be able to assist with.
Okay, discussion. I think in the recommendations that we're getting from economic development and people in general, with the amount of improvements that have taken place, and I'm speaking of the sidewalks, crosswalks, new building purchases. 6 months ago, we had 3 of our major buildings in the downtown area vacant with no hope of anything in the future coming about. Right now, we don't have a vacant piece of property anywhere. So when it comes time to figure out where the money is going to come from, the extra taxation that these buildings are going to be generating is certainly going to go a long way toward paying for this restoration. But to me, to put the money into sidewalks and everything that we have and not go about the business of doing the roadsides for that piece of the village is a vast waste of I wouldn't say necessarily resources, because I know it's going to take resources to do it, but it's going to overshadow every positive aspect of the village. So I can't emphasize enough that we figure out some way to do this. Councillor Lamson?
I think we have kind of figured that out. I think the county can do some of it, and I think when our municipal side road maintenance tractor goes back and forth through there, you could clean that up. Whatever's left. I don't imagine there will be a lot left. I think when the county does that, they do a pretty thorough job of things.
Through you, Mayor Clarkson, I can provide a comment after a discussion with Ivan prior to this meeting. Ivan has indicated that they will be able to provide roadside mowing when the tractor is in the area. However, the work would be considered non-routine maintenance. It just wouldn't be practical to transport the equipment from one end of the township to the other just to keep up with a maintenance schedule. However, when it is in the area and if the current work plan permits it, that they will complete some additional roadside mowing along Lakehurst Road.
Now, is there any weed eating involved in that? Because with the depth of those ditches and the side of the embankment, a lot of that is going to have to be done by weed eaters. You're not going to. Yes, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Clarkson, no, it wasn't involving a weed eater. It was using the roadside mower.
Through you, it reaches out and does that out there.
Yeah.
I think they can do a pretty good job of it.
Well, we'll try it anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good news. Is there any, Donna, this might be for you. Is there any restrictions on volunteers getting in there and finishing that off?
So through you, I would say that would be something we have to investigate. I have the volunteer management policy almost ready to go. So the roadside program has, we're not going to do that this year because of COVID. So typically there is an opportunity through the county on roads like that or on municipal roads to actually register and do it. But I would say we'd have to do a bit more investigation on the volunteers doing that work, especially if we're looking at wild parsnip and poisonous type plants. So.
Okay, well, maybe that's something we need to, because the young lady that does all of the gardens and everything over by the information center, she's strictly volunteer there, right? And we own that land.
So through you, the BDTA have a lease though to run that actual building. So they look after, and actually the LCBO, the maintenance, they look after the maintenance of that property.
Really?
Yes.
The whole thing?
Yes, they're supposed to. They cut the grass, do the snow.
Maybe we can get them after the wild parsnip.
Through you, Mayor.
Yes.
I have gone after them regarding the wild parsnip in years past, and they did do some work to it, but there's certainly a significant crop in there. But they have been on it before and will be on them again.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I guess we need a motion to accept this report, unless you want to have.
No, that's where I was going. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was not sure what you needed, Dylan or Chelsea, to move forward other than our receiving the report and supporting I guess, your plans together with the county for roadside maintenance. Is that the kind of motion that you need?
Yep. Okay, so you're making the motion and Councilor
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Wendover is doing the seconding. All in favor? Carried. Has anybody seen the sidewalks yet? Or don't they look good? Yeah, and I did go in and see the principal about the location of that third walkway. And she's in 100% agreement that it lines up with the entrance to the rink and the parking lot for the school, because that's really where the sidewalk ends, and then that is accessible for them to go to the library. So I did that this morning. Any business arising out of a previous meeting? Okay, so hearing none. Councillor Franzen has no submotion. Would you like to read that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Whereas skeet shooting and target shooting are limited activities on Crown land, and activities on Crown land are a provincial responsibility, and whereas the safety of our residents is a responsibility of all levels of government. Now, therefore, the Council and Municipality of Trent Lake requests the provincial government to regulate skeet shooting and target shooting in safe locations away from residents, public roads, and private roads. Further, the Council of the Municipality of Trent Lake requests all OPP costs for these activities on Crown land be borne by the province of Ontario. The council directs staff to circulate this resolution to the Premier, MP, MPP, Ministry of Natural Resources and Forest, and the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. I'll comment after it's been seconded.
We have a seconder, Councillor Armstrong.
I'll second that.
Okay, now would you like to comment?
First of all, I want to say that I'm not against target shooting or skeet shooting, specifically on private property. There's been a lot of rumors out there. And I think that it should be regulated. I have one incident that I was on the forest access road in Cavendish, and right along that road, there's skeet shooting done. The place is an absolute mess. I was talking to the Windovers. They were afraid that somebody was going to get killed there. There's bullet holes in the trees up above, close to where their property is, and they have a neighbor that's quite concerned about it as well. And there was some municipal signage there at one time. We used it as a wayside pit, I believe, to bring fill to the Beaver Lake Road. So I don't know about that signage, if that can be replaced or if that was municipal signage. But there's nothing there except for the two posts that signs were on.
Peter, has there been any approaching to the OPP to monitor this? Because ultimately it's going to be an OPP.
Yeah,
They do.
I believe both on Bass Lake Road and the site on 507, the police officers laughed at them.
They did which?
They laughed at them. They didn't take their concerns seriously.
Well, there's a police service board issue.
And the big problem is that the cost, I believe they've been out 3 or 4 times to Bass Lake. All those costs come back to the municipality. They're not borne by the province, and they should be if it's on Crown land.
Is what they're doing illegal?
Well, they may have regulations on target shooting and skeet shooting, but they certainly don't enforce them.
Like I remember a situation where they were shooting across the road. Remember that? And
Yeah,
the police said that they that there was nothing that they could do about that as long as they weren't basically in somebody's yard. Like, I'm not against what you're doing here. I'm just wondering if there's any teeth in any of these rules and regulations. And I guess maybe that's what you're asking for. Councillor Lansett?
I know that this is a provincial property, provincially governed, provincially policed. I mean, the municipality has a difficult time doing anything above the next two levels above the government, but maybe this is something that we should be bringing up at AMO. This is what I was going to say earlier. You could speak to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry at our virtual meeting of the Amalgamated Municipalities of Ontario.
I have that also in my notes for when I attend the AMO conference, that we should speak to natural resources about this issue.
Okay, so there's one down. Okay. So
I think this is just the first step, and it supports our ratepayers that have already contacted natural resources.
unless you have better luck contacting than I had today, good luck. Anyway, we've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a seconder for this notice of motion?
I second it.
You did second, okay. All in favor? And that motion is, Ron, are you
Yeah,
voting?
sure.
Okay, that motion is carried. Other notices of motion, I'm going to bring one forward for next week to petition the government to do some gypsy moth spraying. When gypsy moths were so aggressive here a few years ago, they did this at the ministry's cost. I've been on the website and it is recognized as invasive species. But right now they're saying that the onus is on property owners to do the spraying by themselves. And these moths are so mobile that I don't even know how you're beginning to do that. We need to get an aerial spray. And the history of these things is they know that if they invade one year, that anything that they defoliate, if it's early enough in the spring, the trees may come back. If they hit them the second year, they're pretty well a gone gosling. Now, what happened the first time before they got around to spraying is that it killed so many trees that that became a forest fire risk, because all of a sudden we've got all these dead trees. So I think we need to somehow get a hold of somebody at the ministry, and so anyway, that's going to be a motion for next week. So if anybody has information of infestation around, I'd like to hear about it, and we'll make sure that this goes in with it. I know there's some up around you, Carol, because I've heard from people.
Really?
Okay, information items, liaison reports for external boards and committees. Do we have any council liaison?
Just a comment about the Parks and Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee. We've come up with a format for all our recommendations so we can do some information gathering and have a way to move forward with all our recommendations.
Okay.
Another step forward.
And do we have any other ones? Okay. Now I have an information item. We had a discussion at Economic Development, the last meeting. And the idea was that we do a little bit of research on the passport to local dining, which we did about, I'm going to say roughly 10 years ago. So I contacted the Lakefield Herald, who very luckily had all the work from when he had done it before, and the quote for 300 of these, which I have in my hot little hands, is $183, including tax. Now, what that includes is him coming up and doing photography on all the new ones that are coming in and getting rid of the older ones. Also, the redoing of the script and whatever. And because we've got quite a few new businesses coming in, we've lost a few. So changes, you've all got a copy of this on your desk. But changes that I'm recommending to this is eat in or take out, because some of the restaurants this year are pretty sure they're probably going to be takeout only. So Cody, they are pretty sure they're not going to open a dining room. And there's other ones the same. Keep the bakeries in a separate category. We now have 3 bakeries, which is kind of nice. 1 stamp per visit per party, no set menu this year. When this was done initially, we asked each of the restaurants to design a special passport menu with the pricing. We decided that that was going to be pretty cumbersome when a lot of it is going to be taken. So we left that part out of it. Participants will provide 6 lines of copy based on the sample that we hand them out. Eliminate the 4th of choice, Herald, BTA as supporters, and it would be sponsored by Trent Lakes Economic Development. And other things that need to be done there are the mapping has to be redesigned so that the places are in the right places. Other than that, I visited probably 75% of the people on this list, and everybody is tickled pink with this. There's no cost to the people at all, with the exception of the donation of the meals. So, suggestions, comments? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My understanding is that EDAC is going to come forward with a motion asking for council approval of this program. So that is something that will happen at a future council meeting. Because if it's a municipal program, then council will need to approve it.
Well, is there any way that we can do this in principle so that we can get the work done? Because if we're going to have this thing ready to go, obviously the pricing that we've got here is what you might almost call family pricing. There's a lot of work to be done, photography and everything else. And for that kind of price, I can't imagine that it's not going to go. So can we get an approval in principle? Yes.
When is the next EDAC meeting?
They're considering having an interim meeting so that they can bring it forward to council on June 1st.
Would that suffice? I think that's probably quick enough, I think. I mean, we struck these committees to give recommendations. It's kind
Well,
of
see, I
circumvent
thought,
them.
my understanding was we had the recommendation. Because the discussion that took place there was that you and I and Christine would go around and talk to the different people, that I would contact the Herald or the other printer to find out if either one of them had this, and which I did, and they've got. So my understanding was that part of the process was already complete. But do they want to have a second one? Go ahead. But there is a time factor to get this thing done if we're going to get it out there and get some bang for our buck. The businesses, especially the new ones in the village, are really happy that the township is offering them something. And say 6 months ago, we had so many vacancies in Buckhorn, we didn't think we'd ever fill. I see the next step in this is applying for a summer student to hand these out at the canal. Because Buckhorn is the busiest lock on the system, and pretty much everybody that goes through that system's got to come back. And you can go into Buckhorn right now, and you can go into 6 different restaurants. So we are not going to get a Bigley's, but we probably are going to get a variety of places to eat. Anyway.
Thank you for the information.
The new owner of the Main Street's got some pretty good ideas what he wants to do next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to him.
And they got money.
He's related to Vince Graham, remember?
Oh, is that right?
They used to own, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's relative to this.
Okay, so my guess is then this is on hold. Is that what I'm hearing?
I should say, I think it's a great idea. And it will give a real boost to our local businesses, et cetera. I just think we need to follow the process, and it needs to come forward from the advisory committee and get council endorsement, because it will be a municipal program. That's all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you were saying, Councilor Lance.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I mean, hopefully we can have that interim meeting and get that done and have the recommendation, have a means to support. And I think it's a fantastic program too.
Okay, now we need to go into closed. Motion, please. Councillor Lambshead, Councillor Franzen, all in favor? So council is going into a closed meeting to discuss litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Anyone that is listening or viewing the electronic meeting may remain on the line for when council rises from the closed session. And we've already had the motion, and all in favor. Carried. Okay, can we have a motion to rise from closed, please? Okay, that would be Councillor Lambshead. That would be Councillor Franzen. All in favor? Thank you.
Sorry, if I may, I'll just note that Deputy Mayor Windover did have to leave the meeting during the closed meeting, so he is not present.
Now, adoption of the minutes from the regular closed meeting of May the 4th. Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Franzen, all in favor? Motion is carried. Adoption of confirming bylaw. Get a seconder, Councillor, motion, I mean, Councillor Lambshead, Councillor Franzen, all in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Armstrong, I know you'd like to do that. I would. And I know Councillor Lambshead and I know Councillor Franzen. And I would imagine that CAO Donna would like to go, and Jesse, I'm sure. Thanks, folks.
Thank you. We can just call for the vote and stay there.
Yes, I'm calling for the vote, and all in favor? They are.